minutes or so, what we thought we would do is talk a little bit about sort of the secrets, right? The inside track as to how do you look at, evaluate, and determine what franchises are even worth your time to investigate, and then how do you investigate those brands? Excuse me. We have found that people who end up getting what they want, so whether they're investors who are looking for something very large, or they're individuals looking to replace a professional salary, or maybe something on the side, right? The people that get what they want approach this process in a certain way, in a way that other people tend not to approach it. And so I've learned, after the many 2 decades now, helping people do this, that people come to looking at franchising with assumptions. They come with ideas, as we do with everything, because if you're here looking to buy a business, obviously you're successful in your own right. People don't come here unless they have accomplishments behind them. And those accomplishments and that analytical nature and that success that's brought you here has you look at this in the way that you've looked at things before. And what I think you might find is that there are some pleasant surprises along the way. So before we get into a little bit about what I find really exciting about today's franchising, which is some options, lifestyle options that we've never had before, I wanted to go through a little bit of a quiz. And it's 7 questions. We could sort of just run it through with kind of a raising of hands, and then talk a little bit about just a nugget of the truth inside of these quiz questions. And what I think you might do is you might realize you're either real prepared to just jump into a search, or perhaps you might want to learn more. And I'm happy to give a copy of Nick Yanakis' best-selling book, The Franchise MBA, to all of you folks. And it's a great piece, it's a little baby MBA about franchising. Okay, so here we go. So you want to think about, you agree with this, you strongly agree with this, you disagree, or you strongly disagree. Okay? Right, there's no cheating. Okay. All right, so number 1. When you're thinking about narrowing down all of the categories in franchising, chances are, if you look in the categories that are aligned to your education or your previous work experience, you're going to have a greater chance of success. Okay, 4 answers, ready? Strongly agree. Agree? Disagree. Strongly disagree? Excellent. Keep score. Number 2. One way to decrease the risk of your choice is to focus on recognized name brands, learn more about those, the larger systems, because there's a correlation, of course, between growth, recognition of these brands, and your percentage of chances of success. So, strongly agree. Recognize brands and larger brands. Agree to that? Agree to that? Disagree to that? Strongly disagree to that. All right, I'm watching everyone actually. Okay, when we think about our budget, the investment level, the total investment level that we're willing to sort of risk, like go to Atlantic City, right? I'm willing to lose 100, which isn't the way to go to Atlantic City. Okay, my investment level, it's safe to assume that there's a reasonable correlation, it's reasonable, between the investment level and the potential net returns of that business. There's a reasonable correlation. So if I'm in the $100,000 to $200,000 range versus the $400,000 to $500,000 range, the correlation to my earning would be reasonable. It's reasonable to expect that to help you determine your budget. How many strongly agree with that? The correlation. How many agree there's probably a correlation there? Anyone disagree with that there is not a correlation there? How about strongly disagree? There's 0 correlation. Okay, great. Okay, here we go. Another way to decrease the risk of failure, right, that's the big question, right, is to consider, what does my town or community or area need? Or, when I look at the place I'm going to put a business, where is there little to no competition? Okay, so I want to analyze that a little bit and say this is what the town or the area needs. Who strongly agrees with that? Who agrees? Who disagrees with that? Who strongly disagrees with that one? Strongly disagrees with that. Okay, almost done. So you know that the FTC regulates franchising. The FTC Ronald Reagan back in '71 came in with a whole bunch of good reasons to add regulation to franchise sales to protect the consumer. So there's a lot you're going to learn about that. So after you learn that and you talk with the franchisor, there's probably, most likely, a tremendous amount of information, or a lot of the information you're going to need for your decision found on the internet. if you got some guidance as to where to find it, there should be places to help you find the critical stuff about a business. There should be like an internet search kind of thing, like your research. Okay, who strongly agrees? You need to Google. Who agrees? Google's going to provide you with. Who disagrees with that? No, strongly disagree with that. Okay, number 6. Another way to decrease your failure rate or to increase your success rate is going to be to first and foremost focus on the products, the services you might be a consumer of, you might have an affinity toward, you might have a passion about. You might really enjoy or like or appreciate that product or service. That should be sort of maybe number 1 or primary in your search criteria, sort of a feeling toward that end product. Strongly agree to the correlation between success and passion. Agree? Agree. Agree. Disagree? Disagree? Strongly disagree? Okay, where are we? Number 6. Number 7, sorry. Okay, so if and when you have the goal, the main goal of ROI, make the most money I can, okay, it's safe to assume that you should be looking at franchise resales because they're cash flowing. Cash flowing franchise resales most likely would have a better chance to make you money in the situations when your first and foremost goal is the ROI. Who strongly agrees with the idea of franchise resales? Strongly agree? Agree? You agree to that? Look there. Who disagrees with that? Strongly disagree, or you give up on the test? Which is it? Okay. So you had 7 questions. So in your head, you kind of have a sense right of where you're going to these statements. 100% of those questions are strongly disagree. Did anyone? I know you started at that. There's not a single truth in any of those 7 statements. Yet those are they tend to give rise to an attitude or to a disposition people come into this search with. And it's that kind of misunderstanding, which logical, everything's logical, that it doesn't hurt you. I don't think anyone's going to buy a Blockbuster tomorrow. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. So it's not that fear-mongering, but what it does is you miss the opportunities because you think you know. And in looking at a franchise, and I've been in business since 1988, my opinion doesn't matter at all. So if my opinion, that's kind of a lot of years, a lot of brands and a lot of success and everything. If my opinion doesn't hold weight, yours doesn't either, right? So what is it? What isn't? What's the truth? There's a whole lot to learn. And the cool thing about doing a search and committing to a search is that you'll find it's a counterintuitive process. You'll be really surprised. So sort of this open-minded, you're not here to buy a business. You don't look at this and go, oh, I'm going to buy that business. You're going to say to yourself, is this worth my time? And then you're going to spend 30, 60, 90 days going through a due diligence process. And so why have all this calculating going on right now? So I want to quickly, before I show you just a couple things, because I want to get through 2 parts of this, I want to go through and just tell you a nugget as to the truth, okay, in those 7 statements. Does that make sense? That'd be helpful? And this way you can sort of see the counterintuitiveness that you're going to be experiencing. Okay. So the number 1 thing is about my work experience and about the why would it? I've been, whatever, a teacher. I've been from health services, right? My rich background, my education, my master's degree, and my 21 years of blank. Wouldn't I be more successful in a franchise system? Absolutely not. It might be easier or something like that, but ultimately we're looking at data and numbers and statistics. Okay, that's what you want to be talking about, not feel good and all that stuff. Is there a correlation between if the franchisor has 99 franchisees and we took the 13 that were from that profession? Will those financials be any better? There's no. Why is that? Because a good franchisor has a significant, sophisticated training program, and you don't come to the business with that service, unless you're going to be the guy who's hammering the nails or making the donuts. You could make the donuts, that's different. But if you're investing and you're changing your life, these businesses don't need that, which is beautiful because you could recreate your entire life. Doctors can get into, art therapy or whatever it is, right? And kindergarten teachers, they could be in technologies and stuff like that. So it's all about learning about top performing franchisees and their background. You come to the experience with your, it's not like who you, look at this way, it's not what you've done, it's who you are. You get that? It's not what you've done, it's who you are. Who are you in terms of a leader, a manager, the investor here, right? So those, it doesn't matter if it came from any discipline at all, but that's what you show up with the franchisor. Does that make sense? And the rest is filled in during the training. Number 2, you can decrease the risk with recognized brands. I think you might have gotten this. The fact that a brand is large is no indication that it's doing any better than a small one. In fact, franchising doesn't have a whole lot of tons of research behind it. There's 2 companies that do research. The one study that I do have about this, they looked at 1,710 systems, and what we saw was that there was no significant difference between the number of units, to get this, the number of units and closure rate. That's what we look at. It's a hard number. Bankruptcy, defaults on loans, and closures. So if they had 14, they had 44, they had 440, this percentage does not increase, or decrease, I'm sorry, as the system grows. So that assumption is going to keep you away from newer brands. And there are newer brands that are blowing the lid off of older brands. So keep really open mind to that. Okay, number 4, I should look at my town. I should consider, what does the town need? I mean, look, we have all these children and there's really no daycare. Like, okay. So the assumption there is that, and this is really kind of, I don't mean to be sarcastic about it, like, yes, of course it matters, right? What I wanted to bring up is that it's the franchisor's responsibility, not yours or mine, to determine where is a viable market in the country and what is a viable market in the country. So that's an important word, a viable market. So if I was working with you, after we figure you out, we're trying to curate a list of brands that are worth your time. So once we get that list, what my team does is make sure where you want to put it is viable. So we talk to the franchisors, and they say normally yes if it's open, no if it's sold, and no if the business wouldn't succeed there. So is it important that you see the opportunity? Or yes, but it's not important when you say there's too many pizza places. That's not important, because this brand, if it's a good brand, will be there. But with or without you, it'll be there. So the question really is, what makes up this market? Why is my market viable? Who else does it look like? They should all look the same to a degree, you see, the viability of a market. So like gyms and fitness, their criteria list sometimes could be 10 points. They want everything from anchor stores to traffic counts to sizes of this, and let alone household income, of course, it's always part of it. Whereas other brands, like a little coffee shop, they're not going to have 15 points to create a viable market, but you're going to learn about that. So you can feel comfortable that if they say it's available, if it's a good, solid organization, a good company, that it's going to succeed there. Okay, so this next question is a day seminar, but I'm going to tell it to you in 2 sentences. This regulation thing is really cool. You can learn about these things on the internet, that there's some protections built into the discovery system, process for you. But the 3 things that you need to know to buy a business, to make a decision, none of these 3 things are on the internet anywhere to be found, but you need these. People make decisions without these, but maybe not the wisest decision. So the 3 things that, after talking to a lot of people, it's just obvious and common sense. How much money is really in this business? And when do I start making it? Really, really. What do I really do? What do I really do? These terms, semi-passive ownership and all that. What do I really do? How does owning this business affect my life, my lifestyle, right? Important. And number 3, frankly, are these people ethical? How do they problem solve? Is he a jerk? Is everything nickel and dime? What am I not hearing? Are there 22 franchisees pooling money to sue him in a year and a half? Which happens, right? What's that culture? Who are these people? Because frankly, during the discovery process, the large majority of the time in discovery, you're talking to a salesperson, which is fine. Dog and pony show, tolerated. But then you get deep into the real learning. And so those 3 things are not on the internet. So can the internet help you? Completely limited. This is an experiential process, and you have access by the government, guaranteed. You must be given access to the entire system of franchisees and 2 years of people who left the system. So if I was buying a business, I'd be calling everybody on that list. Because maybe there's some great reasons why, right? Maybe the corporate bought him out and gave him 10 million or something, right? It doesn't necessarily mean bad if there's, changes in those numbers. The numbers aren't going up today. So that is kind of a really eye-opener. Okay, 2 more. Number 6. I think this is one of the easier ones that people get. The correlation between my passion for the business and my success. Okay, so again, a little bit kind of conflicting, but the reality is there is no, and again, I just use numbers on everything, right? So statistically, right? If you're more passionate, about, I don't know, coloring books, and it's a coloring book business, your passion it's not quantifiable to improve financials. However, the more I've learned that the more successful someone is, the more passionate they become. So one of my business partners with something overseas, I met him when we were looking at a trash compacting business, dumpsters, gigantic rolling pin trucks that goes to stores and they smash trash, and it's called Smash My Trash. And they sold 532 units in a year. This guy bought 5. He's the coolest guy in the world, and I promise you, he doesn't think about trash. Like cocktail party talk is not boxes getting crushed, you know what I'm saying? It has 0 to do with it. So the correlation, right? When I see people, disaster recovery, there's so much money in that. Drying people's stuff out and fire clean, right? The passion can be something in there. So it's the design of the business. Am I a person looking to scale? I want to play really big. I want to develop individuals. I'm building this for my children. Like, that's where the passion is. And so we're borrowing these businesses. In other words, people tend, I think, to look at the buying of a franchise from a consumer, obviously, standpoint, right? I'm looking at businesses. Do I like pizza? I'm looking at it. We got to go behind it as the investor and look at it in a very different way, right? So we got to kind of get past that. And the last one, number 7, is about resales. Doesn't it make sense that if my main focus is my ROI, I should look for a cash flow business? Well, number 1, everyone's main focus is that. It's not like when I want to make the most money, I should do it differently. There is no other main focus, right? Where is this profitability? Can it do what I need it to do? Always. And I can tell you, one of the secrets to truly build wealth in franchise investing, and many, many people never leave. Once you start looking at this stuff, and you work with myself or people like me, there's a lot of us out there, thousands, you kind of stick around because it's so fun and exciting. But when you begin to think about what you need in a business, what you need, how much can I afford? How much does it have to make? Where is it located? What do I want to do? What don't I want to do? And what can't I do? What about the category? Is it on trend? What about competition with franchisor? You're going to have, which is what we'll do, we define your kind of criteria set. And then you say to someone, in the role of mine, you say, oh, by the way, go find that within 5 miles. Go find that within 5 miles, and I would like it to be existing, cash flowing with no problems. Like, I don't want to buy a problem, Well, then why is this guy selling it? And frankly, because in a good franchise system, all of the franchisees that you become friends with, they know you're retiring and you're going to go to, Maui for the rest of your life. Like, they know, and your good business is going to get scooped up. So there's no logic. Now, could we add to your search? Hey, look, if there's this perfect, resale, the guy had no children, he had no friends, he was very dislikable, but he was rich and he did a great job, and corporate didn't really want it for some strange reason, and it's in my price range, it's making money, I love it, and it's literally a block and a half away, then we're going to look at that too. But in the last 2012 was the first time, full 2012 was the last time I put a guy in a resale. Everybody else is new build. Yes, sir. 2 minutes, thanks. So the last thing I wanted to share with you is what I believe to be the most exciting. Back in up to the 70s, franchising was convenience stores, right? Make the donuts, right? In other words, buy a job for yourself. No one wants that. So then around the 90s, 2000-ish, we started hearing semi-passive, manager, right? That's really popular now. Everyone's going to say that. They want to talk to you. They're not all built that way. And there's ways to determine that. And today, what we have On the left-hand side is the passive investor model. So if you're interested in this, it's attracting investors, private equity people, real estate investors, people that say, okay, where else can I put my money, but I just don't want to work. So the passive investor model in franchising is just about 4 years old. Out of the 300 brands that we know, there's 5 that offer it. It's a very limited, but the way it works is you own that business 100%. And that semi-passive role, so imagine you get a business, you manage a manager, you work 10, 15 hours a week, that model which we have all day long. All you're gonna do is outsource that, 10 to 15 hours a week, back to the franchisor for a little bit of a royalty. And now you're in a growing, strong franchise business that's building brand. Nationally, you're building it locally. Equity, ride, and you're working as much or little as you want, half an hour a month, an hour a day, whatever you want in that business. So we have now passive investing options, limited, there's a net worth qualification. It's a very different game to play, but it's gigantic. We have active full-time and active part-time. And when you want to be an active owner, right? I can work 30, 40 hours a week. And again, you don't want to make the donuts. There's a lot of ways to use your skill set, but you don't have to ever do full-time. There's a lot of cool options. I'd be happy to talk with you and help you kind of just learn a little bit about those options. Because in my mind, as you're talking to these businesses, in my estimation, the model, my contribution of time, because this is really all about, lifestyle, right? It's increasing the quality of my life, right? Whatever that means to you. Freedom, security, opposites, but people want both. So there's a lot to learn. It's a fantastic time to be curious. So stay curious and have a great show. And I'll be following up with you guys after the show, and I'll be outside to chat. Thank you.
Just take a couple questions and break.
Oh, sure. Yeah, thank you, Bill. A couple of minutes for questions. We covered kind of a lot of stuff, so yes, sir.
Do you mind giving us a couple of examples of the passive?
A couple of examples. So passive investing started in the restaurant, business where the franchisor, who's the restaurant guy, would partner up with an operating entity, and it was like a 50-50 profit split. But people did it all day long, and now the very smart, seasoned franchisor groups that have incorporated it, it's in the pet care business. We have it in the medical space, medical and wellness, home services. Every category, has those. So it's not an example of like that business is that. It's more like, do you want to take a look at that? Because it really doesn't matter what that business is doing if you like the business and you look at the numbers. So we could find that across 6 or 7 categories today. One more question? Yes, sir.
What was your name and your company's name?
So my name, can I do it? That's good. Here, let me do that. Let's go to the end here. Master. So Mariel Miller, that's my name, and I'm with the Franchise Consulting Company and the Great American Franchise Expo. And if we stand you, I'll be sending you a couple of really important docs, and I can send you a copy of the Franchise MBA, which is an actual book in the mail, and it's an awesome read. And if we work together, I like my clients to be following along that book and learning the process of exploring these brands. Yep.